In 3, 2, 1, going
All right, guys,
live.
we're now going into episode 7 of HB Unplugged. I'm Mel Craig.
I'm Don Ramsey.
All right, we're going to rock out today. We're going to have a good time. We're going to introduce our special guest, Mr. Rick Brown. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.
We always got to have the sound effects. Huh? You're a welcome sight to the show. And, right off the bat, what I'd like to do, Rick, is kind of have you I've known you for a while, and I always wondered what you did. But I always knew, God, he does a lot of shit. Like he's always doing something. So tell us a little bit about you and your family.
I got 5 kids.
Yeah.
And they're all doing real well. I got my oldest daughter's 33. She just had her second baby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're
so
a grandfather.
I got 2 grandkids.
I know Don's. I'm the only one here not a grandfather.
She moved to Hawaii, and so I'm not seeing her as often as I did before. And I have my other daughter, who's 30. She lives over in Costa Mesa. And then my 2 sons and daughter still live at the house. My youngest, who's 24, just graduated from Long Beach State. My oldest son, who's 29, just graduated, got his master's at USC. So he followed his dad's footsteps.
Oh, wow.
And his grandfather's, and so on and so forth. So that's a family tradition.
Wow.
And,
Big family.
Big family. And then my son Ryan is my athlete. He was a scholarship soccer player. And here in Huntington Beach, he played for NHB, where Mr. Ramsey's grandson now plays.
Oh, yeah.
And then he also played with the HB Slammers. He's now coaching the Huntington Beach Patadores, which is the club soccer team.
Oh, wow.
And so he's doing real well with that. But he also has the Hope International University women's team.
So were you an athlete growing up as well?
Played football and baseball back
Yeah.
in the day. Yeah, absolutely. So and when I went to USC, I had the fortune of really the benefit of having my roommate as being a quarterback of the USC football team. So in 1985.
Oh, yeah, you told me this story. That's so cool, yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
Pull the mic closer to you.
So in 1985, my roommate was Tim Green, and he was a co-MVP with Jack Del Rio, who played in the NFL for many years, in the '85 Rose Bowl game. They beat Ohio State 20-17. So it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We got a celebrity in the house here,
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things about you that I've noticed, I got this question here I've been aching to ask you. You're a bit behind the scenes here in Huntington Beach, but what I did put here, you've become an icon here. I mean, you're like everywhere, but not in one place at one time. You're like one of those kind of guys that you see, they kind of capitalize on the different things that you're doing here in Huntington Beach.
Gosh, where do you start? I mean, there was
the
so many.
Surfing Walk of Fame, the whole,
Yeah. So you're going back, I guess. This is kind of a side story, but Ian Carnes, who was he's a Hall of Fame surfer. One of the original bronze Aussies.
Yeah.
And with Peter Townend and Mark Richards and Wayne Bartholomew, and Ian and I shared an office in Irvine for about 8 years, and so really learned a lot about what Ian was all about, and had him at a lot of events. I had my own RBA Sports Marketing, and we got in World Sports Marketing where we put deals together. And it was NASCAR, NHRA, IndyCar, MMA. We worked in a lot of different sports entities. And the common denominator really was providing corporations with access and privileges that they couldn't get online themselves through our connections and our relationships with different sports entities.
So were you're almost like an agent?
Well, so what happens is I had a corporate background. I mean, right out of college, I went to SC. I worked for the Coca-Cola Company in Atlanta, Georgia. I managed national chains. I managed the gaming properties from Atlantic City to Las Vegas. Then I went to work for Quaker Oats. I managed distribution for the Western United States for Gatorade and Snapple. And then I had the opportunity to work for Disney Sports, and Disney owned the Angels and the Ducks. And I got there just when Disney spent $120 million renovating the ballpark. And so we had a stadium there. And so I met a lot of different folks and a lot of different companies. And there's one gentleman that bought a suite, and he owned a professional soccer franchise. I said, where? He says, right here in Orange County. And I said, gosh, I follow sports. I've never even heard of these guys.
I didn't know there was a soccer team in Orange County.
Yeah.
Did you, Don?
Yeah, a friend of mine is the announcer for a couple different semi-pro teams.
Oh, cool.
Well,
I didn't know that.
what
In
people
Orange County,
don't,
Yeah.
My buddy Daryl.
well, and what a lot of people didn't realize, up until 1995, the highest level you can play in the United States was the A-League. And then after that, the MLS was formulated. So the A-League team here in Orange County became the second division team for the LA Galaxy. So I got to know Ziggy Schmidt real well, who was the coach of the LA Galaxy team. And we'd go back to Miami every year, and we would draft the players we both liked. And when they'd have an injury, they'd pay us to have a player go up to them And so we had a great relationship. But had an opportunity to build a soccer franchise where they're fledgling, and we were able to bring some professionalism to the party. And Soccer Digest had an article and said how the A-League's Orange County Zodiac went from a near non-factor to a solid professional organization in less than 1 year.
Rick.
So we did a deal with Pepsi. It was a $5 million deal with Pepsi.
I mean, look at Don. We're sitting in royalty now. Think about this. We got you in Huntington Beach. I think everybody should be like on the phone with Rick going, "Hey, man, help us out." That's what I'm doing with Don. We're going to be talking to you a lot about getting the sponsors and things like that, helping us out grow this thing.
Well, transitionally, when you talk about the Surfing Walk of Fame, so John Etheridge and at that time, Don McAllister, who just recently passed away, great man, former mayor of Huntington Beach, one of the founders of the Surfing Walk of Fame, and he was
played a huge role.
Absolutely. And I had an opportunity to have lunch with him one day at Duke's, and they were walking me through what they did with the Surfing Walk of Fame. And the problem was they kind of treated it like a kid trying to win a trip to Disneyland, where you're selling world finest chocolate, and people say, "Yeah, give me a couple of bars so I can get you into the Disneyland."
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh.
So I said, you got to treat this thing where you've got some unique opportunities where people can have exposure to the surfing world. And we need to do something besides having a one-off, just a one-day event. So I asked him, what events are you involved with? And one of the events where Don was heavily involved with was the 4th of July parade.
Oh, yeah.
Where we had an entry every year. And I said, well, okay, well, then the sponsors get in the 4th of July parade. And that's the biggest parade west of the Mississippi. And so ironically, back in 2000,
we actually had Stacy on the show with us about this.
Stacy Newton, yeah, she's our consultant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, she was on the show with us. Yeah.
So.
Oh, no, that was the second show.
Yeah.
Well, so the tie-in, right away I looked at it and I said, well, gosh, we bring some big sponsors in here. That can really help. And so first thing we did, we looked at, I talked to a friend of mine, Alan Taylor, who I thought that you might know or might not know, but he's the former CEO of Motor Trend Radio. And he had a great relationship with Toyota North America. And I told him what I was trying to do, and he says, well, Rick, they have a new 2020 Supra that's coming into the marketplace. And so in 2019, we were able to get them involved in a sponsorship for the Surfing Walk of Fame. And at the 4th of July parade, we had Brett Simpson. So another
in that car.
local in that car.
In that car. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Brent's a cool guy too. We love
Cool
him.
guy, and he's won the U.S. Open of surfing twice. He's been on
2009, 2010.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, and so he's been involved in the circuit. He's coaching. I think is he the national team or who's he coaching now?
Well, I don't think he's coaching.
Not anymore?
No. He was helping with the coaching with Courtney Conalog, but right now he's coaching over at Marina High School on Friday nights with Saturday night or Friday Night Lights football.
So he's still involved.
Yeah, I see him all the time. Yeah.
But great personality, very congenial personality, and we had him in the. There was the first the Toyota Supra in all of North America, and it was right here in our parade. And,
Wow,
and we
that's
had
cool.
Brett Simpson in the car, right?
That's cool.
So that was kind of fun. So then starting from
Huntington Beach has got a lot of firsts. A lot of firsts.
no.
I mean, there should be a library with all the firsts of Huntington Beach.
No doubt about it. And but there's been a lot of things that it's funny. Even we look at back in the restaurant industry. Don and I had lunch the other day at Las Barcas right there in Atlanta and Beach.
Yeah.
And I had the fortune when I first moved to Huntington Beach in 1988. I moved into the Huntington Breakers right down there near Beach
Down
in
the
Atlanta.
street,
Yeah.
right down the street.
Right down the street. And the Denenberg family, which was from Argentina originally, they opened up a first Mexican restaurant right there. And I used to tell Don, I used to say, God, this is Baja Fresh before Baja Fresh.
Before.
Fresh tortillas every day. And so, but it has a great tradition and it has a great following here in Huntington Beach. It always has been. And all three of their kids, Alberto and Carmen were the owners, and then their sons, Steve, Bryant, and then Jackie's their daughter. And they've all been involved, but there's only one left, and that's one left that's running the business. And so anyway, we had the fortune to go in there the other day, and it was kind of fun just because it's been such a iconic place to go. It's just like when NASCAR comes to town, a lot of the drivers, a lot of the team guys.
Wait. He took me in there to show me a picture of him that's on the wall, like an old Polaroid that was taken of him about
Is that
20
in his
years
office?
ago. Yeah. I think 20 years ago it was, definitely, yes.
More than that, but yeah. But it was the same kind of thing when NASCAR comes to town. A lot of these guys from the southeast, and they want to come to In-N-Out Burger, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's the same thing here in town when the U.S. Open of Surfing comes here. A lot of surfers go over Las Barcas, and they're like, we got to hit Las Barcas.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So it's kind of fun. But then fast forward back into 2020, Huntington Beach had a guy named Tito Ortiz, who was he was considered the Huntington Beach bad boy.
Yeah.
And but he was a big personality, and he's been in town for many, many years. And back in 2020, he really became back into prominence, where from a political perspective, where he wanted to maybe look at giving back to the community. And we had a long conversation. I happen to remember the exact date, which was June the 6th, 2020. And a buddy of mine from SC.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
During the pandemic, yep. But then a buddy of mine and who's in Costa Mesa, former mayor, Steve Mensinger.
Another good guy.
Another good guy, great guy. And he was hosting an event for Mike Garcia, who's another guy running for Congress up in LA. And I invited Tito to an event, and he just like, you know what? How about Tito Ortiz, mayor of Huntington Beach? You know, and I said,
Matter of fact, well, actually, that was going to be my next question. Is I know you're kind of dabbling now a little bit in politics, or
dabbling, yeah. Well,
so you're helping Butch and Don and Chad. I know that.
Absolutely, and really, and that's where it started. And I'll get to that in just a second. But so yeah, Tito ended up having the most votes in history of the city. All I said to him at the time when he asked me,
44,000.
absolutely 44,000 votes, and so I said to Tito at the time,
Right, Don, like he's got so much in that head. I
He
can't
knows,
believe it.
he knows.
I can't believe how it's like a computer up there. Like it's
well,
stored.
because he's been there working with me on a lot of these
Wow,
things.
yeah, cool.
And he keeps that on the down low, you know. So a lot of things that everyone knows what Don's been doing that on the big projects that are visible.
But
What
behind
they
the
don't
scenes,
know,
yeah,
what he also does behind the scenes.
sort of like you,
Yeah.
both of you, dynamic
Right.
duo.
So you have a lot of things going on
Yeah.
behind the scenes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But no, but I just said to Tito at the time, he said, I want to run for office. I said, if you're willing to work as hard as you train for a fight, I'll be willing to work with you on this campaign. And we worked hard. We had a lot of folks that stepped up and wanted to work with us, and Don was one of them. But ironically, during that year, 2020, we happened to, a friend of mine, father, well, a friend of mine who went to Marina High School, his buddy's son was Chad Williams.
Oh,
So Tito and I met Chad back.
and how old was he then?
Well, he's 40 now, so that's 4 years ago.
Oh,
That's
yeah, so
36.
okay, so he's 36.
He's 36. So he's a former Navy SEAL, and he was on the speaking circuit around the country. He speaks 65 times a year.
His story is amazing.
Yeah, leadership, teamwork, overcoming adversity are the topics that he talks about the most. He's motivational, and so had a chance to talk to him and work with him, for the last several years, and then it came up just recently, and back in 2023, where our pastor at Calvary Chapel, Huntington Harbor, said, "Chad, I was praying, and I thought maybe you should get involved in politics." And he's just a great guy, and at that time. There was a lot of things going on in Huntington, and they needed to find 3 candidates to run for 2024. And Butch Twining and Don Kennedy, who were excellent candidates. They're both, Butch went to Marina High School, and Don Kennedy went to Huntington Beach High School. Locals.
And raised their family. So local. I mean, yeah,
raised
second
their
generation.
families. Absolutely. They raised their families here. And Butch's family, it's a 4th generation family out of Long Beach that had the family business in Long Beach. He lived here in Huntington. But it was Twining Inc., and he built that company when he first got involved. It was a $7 million a year company. It became a $70 million a year company when he sold it a few years back. And he's just a really great guy that is bringing a lot to the party. And Don Kennedy's worked with some entrepreneurs that have just killed it in the real estate industry. And Don's been a key part of that. So we built this team together. Those 2 guys were together first. And then I was able to bring Chad in to meet a lot of the key players in town. And they said, boy, this is the guy that we want for our 3rd candidate.
Yeah, so they brought you on board. Yeah.
So they asked me if I'd help out and help run the campaign.
Actually, going back to Don, Don Kennedy, but Don Ramsey and I were at one of your events over at Surf Dogs a week ago.
Yes.
And we got the chance to meet Don's daughter, who's following in his footsteps.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
cute as a bug, really nice, outgoing. She was there to support her dad, of course. Very good.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, the common denominator for all those guys, their kids are really, they follow suit with their parents, right? I mean, they're great families, and the kids are great kids. They're well adjusted. They're getting their education.
Oh, you could tell right off talking to her, she was amazing. Yeah.
Just
very
polished,
very
yeah.
good. Yeah.
So no, we love
And
it.
locals. That's the coolest thing is, you got a couple guys you're working with that are HB locals here.
Absolutely, and so then, so backtrack a little bit. I'll go back to 2020 because that's such a pivotal year, where COVID was going on, and we had that huge parade, the biggest parade west of the Mississippi, and all of a sudden Sacramento shuts it down.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh my God.
But you give it up to Huntington Beach because Huntington Beach was like, oh wait a minute, we're a patriotic town, and we're not going to just give it up like that.
God, I know where
we're
this
going
is
to have
going.
our own bike parade.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So Ed Romo, he steps up and he just says, "Hey," he starts talking to a lot of his friends and just said, "Hey, let's meet over at Lake Park," and that just grew and grew and grew. And we ended up with 2,000 bike riders that day.
It was just over 1,000. Yeah, 1,000.
Yeah.
So we take this because Ed was on our show too, and I had no idea that you played a huge role in helping these last couple of years really bring this thing together.
Well,
I mean, because what was happening, Ed was always late. He'd get there in the morning of the bike ride, and Don and I were being hounded to death by either the cops or some of the people. Hey man, what you guys doing here? You got to get a permit. We're Don and I are like, wait, we're just helping Ed. What do you mean we got to get permits? I remember I got the first call on the very first show from Rob Handy. And Rob calls me on my phone and goes, "What the hell is going on at Lake Park right now?" I was like, "Oh my
in
God!"
2020, right?
Yeah, that was the first show, the very
Right,
first one.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and I was like, "Look, it's out of control." Don remembers I had this. I found this orange highway cone, the big rubber thing, giant one, and I'm using that. Get off the street, everybody! Get off the street! I'm trying to get control of things and everything. Go ahead. Yeah, I knew we were gonna go. I knew we were gonna go there. But it's so cool that you did play a role in this. Again, that's why I said it seems like you're behind the scenes in so much, and wow, we want to get you notoriety there.
The thing is about that was that for 3 years, I just kept watching it grow and grow and grow, and everybody wanted to participate in it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we're looking at 15,000 bike riders, right? Oh. And then Ed had mentioned, hey, they were making me get a permit this year, and then he hadn't done that before.
No,
and so
it's expensive.
I said, let's go downtown. We went downtown. We got the permit. We met with the police and the fire and the city planners and everything else. We got the permit. Then he needed insurance. We got the insurance. And then I think a week or two before the parade, or before the bike parade, he said, "Hey, Rick, I lost my big Army truck, which we have our veterans in." And he goes, "Gosh, I'm not sure what to do."
Yeah, he sold it, yeah.
So I called Mr. Ramsey and I said, "Hey, can you get a hold of Jason over at HB Propane?" And then, of course, Don, being Don, he was able to hook that up, and we got that truck in time, and we set it up and worked out beautifully. And I had the city officials involved, and they were able to bake that into the 4th of July weekend. So really, we didn't have the expense that we'd normally have.
Right, because they were able to incorporate it in Main Street.
Right.
Instead of doing Ed's normal bike ride through the neighborhood, we decided to just go right down Main Street.
Well, I'm talking about 2023.
Oh, yeah.
And so then this last year, it was the second year in a row that we had to get a permit. This time, they blocked it all off, all the way down from, we started off at Utica, and we went all the way down to the pier. And but it was a week before the 4th of July parade. But they were still able, because they saw the just how popular this bike parade has become. And I think, Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Ed mentioned it's like the biggest bike parade in the U.S.
Yeah, well, supposedly, and you're probably going to get involved in this, is we're going to go for the Guinness Book of World Records, right, Don?
That was the plan.
That's the plan. It's
not
going to be
cheap to get
it's like
Guinness here.
$15,000 to $20,000 to get
at
Guinness
least
Book of
now,
World
I
Records
don't-
to show up.
Yeah, well,
so
we
we're
did the surfing circle.
yeah, we're going to need some help with that one. That's what we're going to be calling. Hey, Rick, we need some help, man.
Yeah.
Well, the city loves the event. Unfortunately, it's gotten so big that you need to get exactly what's involved, and that's the water barriers that block off all the streets crossing Main.
Right.
So that there's no cars entering the bike route. And in order for the event to sustain and continue to be the #1 bike parade plus part of the 4th of July weekend is to continue to do it on Main Street and keep those water barriers right there.
So it's almost like the bike parade is being married right into the 4th
Oh,
of July
yeah.
parade now.
Oh, yeah.
Next year, it'll all be like one unit.
It's part of the 4th of July
Yeah, yeah.
celebration weekend,
Can you
essentially.
imagine that when we first started? I remember Ed and I were sitting at Pier Plaza. We weren't even supposed to be sitting there. The beaches are closed. We're rebels by the cause, I guess. Anyway, he's going, we got to advertise this. Okay, so I'll go on Facebook, my Facebook, and I'll put it out. And we really figured maybe 25 or 30 bike riders would show up. We'd go cruise to the beach and call it a day. And it just got look at what it's grown to today. And thanks to you, guys like you and Don, who have really stepped up. And now look what's happening. It's amazing to see something so simple and easy grow to this. Go ahead, Don's ready.
Well, I just remember this last one that we had. I pulled over just to watch how many bikes were coming down Yorktown to turn left down Main Street, and it was unreal.
Endless.
It was from Yorktown in front of Huntington Beach High School, all the way down past 14th Street and down towards 12th Street, which is where Lake Park starts. The amount of bikes was that long. That's
huge.
That's almost, I don't know, 3/4 of a
Yeah,
mile
almost a
of
mile.
bikes.
Almost a mile. Yeah. You know, which brings me to another thing about Huntington Beach, and I've been advocating this for a lot of years, Don and I both. You know, that we all know Huntington Beach is Surf City. HB is Surf City. But what I tried to do in 2014 and 15 is acknowledge the car culture from the Cowabunga Van Clan to, you know, what I tell people, Huntington Beach is actually the hot rod and classic and vintage car capital of the nation. There's more hot rods and classic and vintage cars here in Huntington Beach per capita than any other city in America. And I tried to really advocate for that. But we all have that in common, because that was one of my questions, is your involvement in the cars. Let's talk a little bit about that. Your, you know, I mean, NASCAR and everything you're involved in. So
Yeah, well,
Not anymore, but he was.
Yeah. I mean, I was sitting in his office one day. I'm looking, he's talking away, but I couldn't help but, I wasn't ignoring you, but I'm sitting there going, wow, look at all these pictures.
well, it's interesting because when I got involved in professional soccer, one of our sponsors had a NASCAR racing team. And I knew about NASCAR, but I didn't know a lot about NASCAR.
Right.
But
You
it
had to
happened,
teach
there was
yourself.
an article in Fortune magazine that said NASCAR, the hottest marketing vehicle in sports. So I went, oh, no shit. I started going through it. And I was amazed by it. And so I went to several events, and I could not believe. And then I was told about 73 million Americans were NASCAR fans. But their passion and their loyalty to that fan base is unsurpassed. There's nothing even close. They'll spend 10% more on a product that is affiliated with a sport than one that is not. So, for example, if Coke is but Pepsi's not, and Coke is like 10% more expensive, they'll buy the Coke because that's how loyal they are to the fan base. So when it came to a sponsorship type of thing, a lot of these southeastern teams, they thought, well, we'll just slap a sticker on the car, and if we put a sticker on the car, they'll be happy and we'll make it work. That's not how it works, right? So at the end of the day, it's about how does that corporation work with a team and the personalities of the team, the drivers of the team, and how do they use that to reach the fan base? And then how do they call it activation? How do they activate it? So for an example, if you had a soft drink product, you would want to make sure that within a 300-mile radius of that racetrack that you would have, they call it multiple points of distribution in stores. That'd be like an end cap display, a freestanding display, a cold section display, a regular section display, and have what they call eye-to-thigh placement, from your eye to thigh, the best parts in the store, right? And they would blow products off the shelf. So they said to Lou Savelli, who was the VP of Business Development for DuPont, who represented Jeff Gordon, they said, how do you attribute spending $20 million a year in NASCAR? And he said, very simply, we can attribute $100 million for our revenue growth to our affiliation with NASCAR. So it was a 5-to-1 spend. So it was an absolutely amazing.
I learn something new every day.
Yeah, well, but that was
Takes money to make money, right?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? So when we cruise around, it's constantly like this. He's just going.
Yeah, it's like the Energizer
I'm
bag.
going, come on, let's go. And he goes, man, this morning. Oh my God.
He goes 100 miles an hour. Yeah, the Energizer bunny. He just keeps going and going and going, and the SEMA show.
Yes.
It's coming up in November. It's a big show for all of us in the car industry. And you're affiliated with SEMA as well. Let's tell everyone, what is SEMA? SEMA is Special Equipment Manufacturers Association.
Yeah, it's the biggest auto show in the entire world.
Well, second. Auto Mechanica in Germany is bigger.
Is it bigger?
Oh yeah, quite a bit. Yeah,
okay,
massive. Yeah,
the
but
biggest
they
one in
only
the US.
they only do Auto Mechanica every 2 years, and it's huge. I've been there twice. It's like Auto Mechanica. They actually have skyscrapers. There's 5 of them, buildings, five stories, 7 stories, and 11 stories. They're filled. Every floor filled with automotive. You go into some of these booths, and literally it'll be maybe the Chinese or Japanese or Korean or Taiwanese or whatever, and they'll literally have the screw that they sell the screw that holds the knob onto a part. That's all they sell, those screws. Or then the next booth over, they're the knob that screws onto that screw. I mean, it's like anything you can imagine at Auto Mechanica, and it's similar at SEMA, not quite as elaborate as that, but I swear to God, Don, like every little part on a car, somebody makes it and sells it.
Wow.
You know, like every stereo, the plastic piece that goes on top of the stereo numbers. You know, I mean, you're like, wow, you sell those? Doesn't that come as one unit?
Is there a VW bus section?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's
Everything.
not a VW bus section, but it's Germany. I mean, yeah. So there's a big. Obviously, it's their hometown. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so SEMA, and I'll bring Huntington Beach back into the mix. There's a gentleman by the name of Rich Evans.
Yeah.
And who you know
Yeah.
Rich Evans. And
We go way back, him and I. Yeah.
So,
Really cool guy.
Our daughters played soccer together, and I learned a little bit about what he was doing at the time. And he's the one who introduced me to Alan Taylor, who was the former CEO of Motor Trend Radio. And we all live in a world of contacts and relationships. And so through that relationship, I was doing some consulting with a gentleman that we had our offices at in Irvine, and that's where Ian Carnes, he was also doing some consulting with this gentleman. This guy's an inventor, and he's really good at coming up with ideas and patenting these ideas, but he's not really good about going out and selling it to these different companies, right? Or at least presenting it properly. And so then he came up with this thing called Rack and Track, and it was an apparatus that goes on the back of pickup trucks. And the pickup truck industry has just, for the last 6 years in a row, pickup trucks are number one sellers in America, and that aftermarket has just blown up. And so
I didn't even know that existed. And when you show, it's a bad. You don't. I don't know
What
if
is
you.
it?
Oh, go ahead. It's a trip. It's unbelievable what people
Rack
people
and Pack?
invent. Yeah.
it's called Rack and Track. So
Rack-
Rack and Track.
yeah, so what you have, a lot of the trucks, there was a need for convenience. You know, a lot of times you want to put your luggage on top of your truck, and they've got a basket up there, and they get a ladder or something to get to the top. Well, he had an automated system. He pushes the button, and the rack comes down, and you load up all your stuff.
Comes off the back of the top of the pickup, Don.
Comes down,
and rolls
all
down,
the way down. Push
and
the
then you
button,
put
goes
your
back
stuff
up.
on it, and it goes back up.
Yeah.
Electric.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he had the great idea, and we had these renderings, and we went to SEMA, and Alan Taylor was he's like the host of the Shell Oil stage, where he interviews a lot of people from all over the world at SEMA. And I said, hey, I'm going to show you something. He goes, that's a great idea. That's right. And so he said, hey, well, let's talk. And so then the next, when he came back to LA, Galpin Ford is the biggest Ford dealer in the entire world. And they have Galpin Autosports, which is they used to do a show called Pimp Your Ride.
Yeah. Everyone watched that.
And they would create something out of nothing.
I couldn't
right?
miss an episode. It was so
Yeah.
cool.
These guys are really good at what they do. So we went up, met with them, and Bo Bachman, who's the CEO and owner, took over for the family business. And he
Bo's
said,
a nice guy.
Yeah, great guy. And but his team was really good, and they said, "Gosh, we got so many things going on." And we said, "We got to only have like 5 months before SEMA. Can you guys bring that rendering to life?" And they said, "Well, we can certainly give it a shot, you know." And so then they started working on it, and they said, "Well, first and foremost, we need a truck. You can lease or buy one from us." And then Alan Taylor says, "Hey, a friend of mine, Steve Celine of Celine Automotive over in Corona, has some really great trucks." And so we went down there and met with Steve Celine. He goes, "I want that apparatus on my truck. We'll send it up to LA." So it was a $130,000 truck, and he sent it up to LA. Galpin Autosports starts working on it. They had everything ready to go. We flew back to Indiana, and we met with Lear, Leer, Lear, and they're known
big
for
in the automotive industry. Big, huge.
yeah. And they said, within the first 5 minutes, we want that truck, that apparatus in our booth in SEMA in Las Vegas, because they said our theme this year is innovation. So they thought this thing was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so at the SEMA show, and this was in 2019, and it was like the hit of the show.
Yeah, I tell you, the reason I bring it up is because so many people here in Huntington Beach, Chip Foose, Rich Evans, at one time Jesse James. I mean, the car industry here is so huge.
Yes.
It was just interesting because all three of us are car guys. That's a big deal, you know.
So, so that was a lot of fun.
And people that don't know Rich Evans, they know the castle.
They know the
you know,
castle,
because just off of Talbert in Huntington Beach is Rich's shop. And he's actually in Arizona a lot now, but you know, he has his shop there. It looks just like a castle. So anybody in Huntington Beach wondering who Rich Evans is, he's the guy that owns that building. It's kind of cool looking. Yeah,
Yeah.
Did it, set it all up. Yeah,
It's across the
obviously
street
a
from Reliable Lumber.
Yeah. It's a really cool guy too. I like him a lot. Him and his wife Patty, very nice people. So Don, you got any more questions for him or?
Well, I've known Rick quite as long. How long have I known you? But
Probably like 7 years.
6, 7 years. And
How'd you
to
guys
hear
meet?
him passionately describe all this stuff, and I was just joking. It's not like I hear it all the time, but to see you and hear you delve into all this history, you know, now I understand who you are and why you're doing what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, the way I look at it, and part of the premise of this whole show is letting people know, like, what an asset you are to Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach knows that, it's a community, but it's also a business. The community is a business, and they got to run a business. And they have guys like you and Johnny Thridge. I mean, there's guys Don Ramsey, we've got so many people in this community that are really an advocate to help build the community. And that's really important, Rick. I mean, it really, what you do and what you say, I watch you all the time now, and I got to know you as a friend now, and it's really interesting to see what you've done and how you've done it, and the motivation and the energy. Like, geez Louise. I was like, where are the guys? The guy never stops. Okay, that's enough. Stop.
While we're working together, I just say shit off the cuff and keep him going, and he just listens to me babble, and I'm just throwing stuff.
Well, you know what's fun about, but if you ever want a history of Huntington Beach.
Oh yeah, no, we had him do a show. Oh yeah,
no, there's nobody.
I know.
But driving with him around town.
Oh, hey, look at that! What happened over there?
You see that grass patch right
there?
there?
Yeah, that used to be.
That used to be the airport.
You see where that building is now? That was
right.
yeah. Last week he was talking about. You see where we're sitting right now? This used to be absolutely the drive-in theater.
Warner Drive-In.
Yeah, Warner Drive-In. I remember that. Yeah,
this was a Warner Drive-In.
Yeah, been a while, and this has been here a long time. This has been here like 30 years, so it's way before.
Oh yeah,
that.
the Warner Drive-In.
That's
talking
old.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun because when you appreciate history, and I was a history minor, and I love history, and have when we're working together, and he's just talking about history, and it's just a lot of fun because he talks about it like it was yesterday, And you've heard of Pablo Escobar?
Oh God, yeah.
We were over in Huntington Harbor, that's where he was at when he was here back in the day, and just all these characters,
We're having a lot of fun. This is, I've told this to everybody. This community is something that once you're a part of it, you never want. It's like the mafia. You can't leave. There's no way. You can't move away.
Yeah.
That's what blows me away. John's leaving to Tennessee. I want to kill him. Man, he needs to stay here. So.
Well, it's funny because you have a lot of families that are so invested in the community, and I've been dating Stacy Shell. You met Stacy several times, and her kids all went to Edison, and she has one still going there, and just being involved and going to some of the Edison football games, and it's been a lot of fun to be exposed to that again. And but she has a couple of her older daughters are working in the community, and they've all done very, very well. And so it's been fun to see it's from that perspective again, and then of course Don and his kids are just doing what they're doing. I mean, his grandson is a phenomenal athlete, soccer and football, and so it's been fun because the other thing is when you think of we have a lot of friends that we met in the youth sports community, and as Don's explained to me that, hey, I saw Brent Simpson out there with his kid, and then
Chad Williams.
Chad Williams with his kid
Danny
out there.
Nichols. I mean, there's so many local guys that are at the Friday Night Lights football in Marina High School.
A lot of fun.
Just so much tradition. Great. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Well, one last question I want to ask you, Rick, and I ask this to everybody. How do you feel about working and being part of Huntington Beach? I mean, what's your role is here.
Well, Huntington's a unique city. It's Huntington has always been has a personality of its own, and the reason why we have 11 million visitors a year is it's a destination location. People want to come here, whether it's surfing or whether it's like U.S. Open surfing or just the sport itself, right? Or coming here for the parade, the biggest parade west of Mississippi, or the air show. This is the preeminent air show in the entire world.
And I didn't know that until last week when you guys were talking about that. I didn't know that this show is that big of an event.
Well, you look at Australia, the Gold Coast. They said we want to replicate this here in Australia, and this year for the second year in a row, it's just blown up. The government has just jumped all over it. The hotels are full. They've done a remarkable job. Code 4 and Kevin Elliott have done an amazing job, and they've done it here as well. And it's interesting because
we want to get him on the show before the air show. We got to put this together because we'd love to have him talk about how it's all come together, and it'd be great.
You really should because he's done so much that people don't even realize what he's done to make this happen. This was not an easy project. I mean, there were so many things from day one, he really hasn't made any profit. And the first year he had an opportunity to make a profit was 2021, and they had the so-called oil spill.
Yeah,
and
kinda messed up things.
Yeah, but anyways, no, he's done a tremendous job. The Air Force, Thunderbirds, and then the Blue Angels, the Navy. These are some of the premier air.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
You know, one of the coolest things for me last year was Don. God, I love Don to death. So he comes up to me and goes, "Hey man, how'd you like to carry a couple pilots with you in your VW bus?" I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Every year I have a crew and we pick some of the buses and I want you and Karen to have your bus and you take a pilot and his wife and or a couple pilots and one of the pilot
for a cruise.
the pilot that got in mind was the stealth fighter pilot. The stealth plane.
Oh, yeah.
And like I was like one of the key guys. He's the solo guy who flies over with the stealth jet. I was like, whoa! And he was telling me all these stories, and it was just amazing to be able to have Don say it. Hell yeah! This year I want to do it again, man. The Cowabunga Van Clan seems like what did that has to do with an air show? Don's in there with the Cowabunga Van Clan and the buses. And it finds it's a perfect fit. I mean, those guys. They had when they got out of the bus and we parked at the resort where all the pilots were getting out. Nobody just left and went in.
Oh yeah,
we all stood by the buses.
We
hung out.
Pictures.
Pictures next to the buses, and
they
we're all.
love it.
It was.
I'll tell you a quick story. So, the first year of the air show, the Thunderbirds were the premier showcase jet team.
Right.
And we picked them up and took them, did a parade down Main Street with about, 60 pilots, crew members, and parachute teams, and about 25 buses. Anyway, so the next year, Chris Cole from Community Services went with the mayor and city manager, and they met with the Blue Angels, landed at Los Alamitos Air Base to sign the contract to do the second air show. And the captain of the Blue Angels gets out of the jet, and Chris Cole and them walk over and start talking to him about the air show. And the first thing the captain of the Blue Angels says, "Hey, the Thunderbirds told us you drove them around town in VW buses. Are you going to do that with us too?"
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh my God, that is freaking great. Really?
Yes.
Unreal. What a great story, Don. I had no idea.
Story.
It had that big of an impact on them.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
unreal.
They love to cruise in
Unreal.
VW buses.
Only in Huntington Beach.
Huntington Beach.
But the attention to detail, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Kevin has done such a phenomenal
Oh,
job.
yeah.
Do you realize it generates $120 million to the local economy in Orange County? $70 million here in Huntington Beach as far as the hotels and people spending money at
I can't
restaurants and all
imagine.
that. And then about $4 million of taxable money goes into the coffers of the city treasury. And that's all done through this effort that Kevin Elliott's made the last several years to create this phenomenal show that it's probably now the most anticipated event in Huntington Beach.
Oh yeah, it is.
yeah.
Everyone looks
And
for it.
we got some great events here in town.
And I live
Yeah.
right on the beach, so it's really cool because I can walk over to the beach and we can watch it sitting on the sand, Karen and I. Or we just sit on our patio and they go literally right, shake the windows out of our house. It's like so cool.
It brings 1 million people to Huntington Beach over that 3-day period.
Yeah.
And but they also have these chalets now. A lot of the companies have been getting chalets, and people are like, why do I need that? I can watch it out of my house, right? But the way Kevin's built that whole area there with some special VIP opportunities, that's they have music that is choreographed to the planes coming over. They have the Air Force, the Navy officers talk about, okay, folks, now look over your left shoulder. Here they come, and they kind of tell you what's going on.
Oh,
right?
yeah, cool.
So they kind of it peels the onion back a little bit about what's happening before it happens.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just really a fun.
Well, you got to get Kevin on the show with us.
Oh,
Help us
definitely.
out there. Yeah, let's do it. Make that happen. Rick, it's been great having you on the show. What a contribution you've made to the community. I mean, big time. I mean, for everybody out there in Huntington Beach and podcast land, that sitting here with Huntington Beach royalty, really, because you have a chance to really do a lot of. You have a huge impact on so many events, like Don. And I see why the two of you are great friends and how you guys become friends, because you're both so involved in Huntington Beach and in all the things you do. From the events to the politics to the air show to the 4th of July parade. I mean, we all have our hands involved in this. And I'm really stoked to be hanging with you guys. I tell Karen all the time, pinch me, because I feel like I've created these great friendships with some really cool dudes. Because isn't it true? We grow up in life, and how many friends are no longer with us?
Right.
Yeah.
How many friends have moved away and moved in, gone different directions?
Yeah.
And I tell people now, when you find new friendships, and new friends come together, man, cherish them because you don't know how long they're going to be around.
Totally
and
agree.
all that stuff. I mean, creating a friendship with Rock and Fig, the coolest thing about Fig is that today people in the surfing industry, a lot of people have egos, and a lot of surf shop owners have egos. You walk in and retail, and they want to sell you a board, whatever. But when you walked in the Fig shop, you couldn't help but just start talking surf and stuff. That's how he was. If you were a surfer and stuff, and if you weren't, he treated the tourists the same way. Like, hey man, welcome to the beach. And of course, he has an ulterior motive, selling some surf gear or surfwear or some apparel or whatever. But nonetheless, he was really a cool guy. And I think the community, that's the development of friendships that we see here in Huntington Beach.
Yeah, Figgy was great at remembering names.
Oh man,
The guy was unreal with how many names he remembered. Because I'd sit there and watch him because we were very close and just unreal.
the first day, one of the first weeks when I moved on to 14th Street when I moved back the second time. And one of the first times the first time I walked in to Fig's surf shop, I was walking looking at boards and he was sitting behind the counter. And all of a sudden he goes, I know you. You're the surfing photographer guy. Because I was a big time surfing photographer, right? I found my photo stuff. But I was like, are you kidding right now? I mean, I knew Fig because I knew him because we used to listen to surf reports up here all the time, and he was always giving us. So yeah, he's a big time surfer. But that was you're right, man. To know that somebody like that. But those are the friendships that we've developed. And Huntington Beach has a lot of that going on. We were down on Main Street the other day, and just cruising. What do you call it? Every Tuesday night they have the street fair. And for Karen and I, we ride our bikes over there. We get some tamales, or she'll get some veggies, or whatever. Just cruise up and down the street a couple times and walk and talk. Well, we decided to have dinner this time at what do you call it? One of the restaurants. Anyway, we're walking back down the street. We're running Ed Rommel. Of course, Ed's sitting with a table full of girls, like 5 women sitting with him. I was like, walk up, go ahead. Of course, you're with all the girls, and he introduced me to everybody. And then we talked for a few minutes. Then I walked down the street a little further. I ran into Craig Bradford. He was helping you a lot, and really a big supporter of the HB3. I know that. We got talking for a few minutes. And then a little bit further, I run into Greg Furlong. Okay. And by the way, Don.
Yeah.
So Greg, coming from Greg, this is important. We're walking, and Greg says, hey, Mel. We're starting to walk away, and he turns to, hey, Mel. And I turn, hey, what's up? He goes, I got to tell you something. You're making a huge impact with your HB Unplugged radio show. We're all proud of you, man. That's a really good show. You're doing a good job.
Nice.
And I was like, really? I thought you'd like to hear that.
Well, Craig's been involved with. He was involved with the city for like 30 years.
Oh yeah.
Right?
He's and he's helping
Matt Liffering.
Matt Liffering now. He does a lot with Matt. I think they're both partners. They teamed up, and they're doing a hell of a job with all the things they're doing. Matt and I did a bunch of stuff in the beginning stage with hot rods. It was a lot of fun with him.
He's actually filming the Chamber of Commerce meeting tonight.
Yeah.
But so I'll go back to Rock and Fig for a moment. Not only was he involved with the surf report and all that, but and also he was a commentator and speaker at a lot of the surfing
US
events.
Open.
But also I remember there was a couple guy named Chuck Hench, and he was the president of the professional paintball league. And he used to have it right on the beach. You remember that?
Yeah.
And Rock and Fig was he was like calling the play-by-play.
Really?
Yeah.
He was so good at that.
He's such a great personality, and he was able to, what he didn't know, he learned about it, and he did a fantastic job.
What blew me away the most about Figgy was when I would sit on the beach and listen to him. And it didn't matter what surfer was out in the water. He would pull stuff out of his head that he remembered about them growing up, and he kept he kept the audience alive. Like he made the people sit on the beach. Like it was fun watching the surf, but he kept us entertained. Like if there was a flat spell, shoot, Fig was up there just rocking Fig. Like he was rocking us all out.
He's
like,
filling in the content.
Yeah, he just kept everybody in tune and kept everybody going. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah.
Well, I know we got to go, but I'll share something funny. I'm sitting down on the beach right in front of the Jack's Pro, Jack's Pro every year. And Fig was the announcer, and he sees me down on the beach. And he sees his dog over down on the beach, and he's saying, I don't think the dogs are supposed to be on the beach. And he goes, hey, see Don Ramsey down there. Look, go ahead and go catch that dog for us, please, and get him off the beach. And I look around my shoulder, and I go, me? Yeah, you. I take off. Of course, I don't get the dog. But he made fun of that whole thing for a good 10 minutes in between sets. And I just thought, this guy is freaking
Unreal.
Yeah, and people were laughing. And
So entertaining.
Yeah, it
I know
was
you guys
great.
were really close, the two of you, really
Yeah,
close. Yeah.
yeah, he was a good friend.
Big loss to this community. Big loss.
Yeah.
To this
Yeah,
community.
sure was.
Well, Rick, been a fun time. A lot of
Yeah.
energy here. Yeah, good friendships.
Appreciate the opportunity. Just talk to you guys, and what a great show, by the way.
Yeah, it's all about the HB community. Man.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about.
I've watched the some of your previous episodes, and just great personalities. I mean, just a lot of fun, and they have
thank you.
different perspectives that they provide, and so it's been kind of fun. It's been actually a lot of fun.
Well, I couldn't have picked a better co-host for the show. I mean, it's all about keeping the energy going and stuff like that. And it's about, again, it's just another. Look at, there's so many venues for support and things you get. One of the things Alex and Sky are doing, by the way, you've got to meet Alex. He's our producer of the show, and Alex is now going to work on the website because down we're going to add a calendar. So we're going to be picking your brain for all both you and Rick. We figure out what events are coming up so we can get them on the calendar. Because when people go to the show, there's two ways to watch the show. You can download the podcast, or you can actually go to YouTube or Spotify and actually watch the video content.
Right.
See the show live. And so what we want to do is we're going to put the events up there on the calendar. So we have that going.
Great idea. Great
Coming up
idea.
next, yeah.
Well, you then.
So-
you
so-
gotta-
so
you
it's
gotta
another-
make sure people know that the Ramsey brothers are playing at
Yeah,
Cars
yeah,
and
so see,
Copters
yeah.
on October 13th, Sunday, October 13th.
But tell them what Cars and Copters are.
Well, Cars and Copters is a fantastic event. It goes from like Huntington Street all the way to the bridge that goes over Coast Highway in front of the Hyatt Regency.
The Hyatt, yeah.
And wow, the cars.
Like 7 or 8, I think last year was 7 or 8
Yeah,
helicopters.
7 or 8 helicopters are kind of mixed in with the cars.
All
and
these
they're-
exotics,
Cars
like-
are,
There's
they're-
more $1 million cars in Huntington Beach that weekend, that day, than anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I was telling you the story.
It's unreal.
Last year, Alan Silverman and I, we were walking around the show, and we walked down one whole aisle, and we got to the end. I go, hey, Alan, turn around. And he turns around and goes, what's up? And I go, we just walked by like $20 million worth of stuff. Like big boy toys, like really
Oh, yeah.
big boy toys.
There
Yeah.
are some unbelievable cars in that show.
Well, Rick, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it. And,
Thank you.
Good luck with all everything that you're doing. And
Appreciate
Don and I are
everything.
going to be asking you for some important help on the show here. We're going to be needing some sponsors.
Well, I
and-
appreciate everything you guys do in the community. I mean, it's been a lot of fun just to be working with you guys and affiliated with you guys. And this guy here is the unofficial mayor.
Yeah.
He's been involved in just about everything. And same
And
thing.
I always make fun of him. 'Cause when he says, I sit on the board, I go, oh, you sit on every board.
Yeah, right.
I sit on the chair. Yeah, you sit on every chair. He does. He's like, he is Mr. Well, this is Mel Craig.
I'm Don Ramsey.
Thanks for joining us.